Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit or Zappy here, back again with Demon Slayer. We're on episode 5. First of all, sorry for the wait, guys. I've basically had a head cold, or at least I had a head cold last week to sort of like the end of the week where it was kind of clearing up, and then it kind of reimbursed itself, and I've just been completely tired, like basically unable to sleep. Been getting about like 3 hours or something, like sleep every night, and just been feeling like shit. But it seems to have cleared up now. I mean, I still feel a bit like shitty right now, but I'm in a sort of state where I can record. And the better thing about it is that like I don't feel like I can't focus on something, which is one of the things I always like sort of toss up if like I'm ever ill or anything like that. It's almost like a fight in my head to like should I record or give it a day to record, because the last thing I want is to kind of just put out a reaction to something where I basically take no notice of what's going on, and like it's like, you know, all the information's going in one ear and out the other. I mean, I do these reactions and things with the intent of taking everything in that I can and then discussing about it, so I get like as much out of it as I possibly can. So I really want to be ideally 100%. How he sort of empathized with Tanjiro because of that was possibly losing Sabito. So, which obviously, I mean, look at it. It's the same one as Sabito wears, except it's just half, isn't it? So, I'm still sticking with that theory that Giyu and Sabito were like, I don't know if they were proper brothers or anything like that, or they were just, they grew up together. But it's the theory that I'm sticking with. But yeah, anyway, in the last episode we had the what do you call it? I don't think I wrote it down in episode 4. Didn't write it down in episode 3 either. What? Where is it? It's the fucking final thing, right? I can't remember. I'm sure. I swear I must have written it down. If I can't say it. Oh god, I may not be fucking focusing at all today. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. We had it where Tanjiro went up against that demon that had basically been there for quite a while and ate a hell of a lot of people, and had become this sort of amalgamation of fucking arms and hands and stuff like that. And he cut him down. And actually got through the head, which others were unable to do. And obviously we got the confirmation that Sabito and Makamo were actually dead, and what we were seeing were their spirits, and whatnot. Which I mean, it figures, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, we are still within that sort of final right now, right? Obviously, it's not the end yet, because I think we ended with Tanjiro just killing him, and that was it. That was the end of the episode. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. I've been talking for quite a while now, 5 minutes. So, yeah, we're going to get into episode 5 and see what we get. So, yeah, if you do want to go watch the 10-minute highlight, you can do with the link down in the description to my website. That'll take you to the 10-minute version. But if you do want to go watch it in full length, the link to that will be in the description as well. You will need to be a full length tier patron in order to have access to that, but it will give you access to the full episode if you just want to watch the full reaction. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. So we're going to get in episode 5 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 5, right. I guess I'll preface just by saying that if I did miss anything, I do apologise. Like I said, I think I'm about 90% as opposed to 100%, but I feel like I got the gist of like most things out of that. First of all, because I am a fan, that was definitely Bakugo's Japanese voice actor. That was definitely him. It's not like he's typecast or anything, is it? But yeah, of course. So yeah, cool. Great to see him get work, because he's a fantastic voice actor. If you do watch My Hero stuff, it's not like I just strictly watched the Japanese dub, the English dub. I watched that for the reaction, and then afterwards, when I watch it through the second time, I watch it in the Japanese. So, But yeah, so episode 5. I guess we'll just start from the very beginning. So, interestingly enough, we started with the sort of like the backstory, I guess, or like a little bit of it anyway, scene of where that demon was officially like dealt with and caught by Sakonji. I mean, it looked like he slashed him. Obviously, he clearly didn't cut his head off, because if he did, he wouldn't have been put in like imprisoned on that mountain. But but yeah, it was cool to see sort of Sakonji fight, and just the slight little sort of details in the art and the the drawing and stuff like that. Sort of just very, even like in a dark lit scene and still wearing his mask, he looked youthful, But it's cool to sort of like see him fight, because he doesn't really fight anymore, does he? So, or I should say, he doesn't slay anymore. But yeah, it was cool to sort of just see him do. So I liked how he. I think I don't know where he landed in regards to him like that first time. I think he landed in front of him, but sort of like swiped behind him, what it looked like. Which is just really cool. I wonder. I've got to assume that he went in with the plan to like incapacitate him so he could take him and imprison him on the mountain, right? It must be. Yeah, that must be a thing that you do, like purposefully. But yeah, that was cool anyway. And then, but yeah, I mean, the sort of start of that scene was obviously sort of like a preface to the like what we saw just a little bit later, in that was actually the demon. We kind of saw somebody kneeling down, which was actually him in his human form, obviously when he was a kid. And then like sort of in the background, the focus obviously was on a demon eating his brother, which was actually him as well. So but it's interesting. Yeah, it does sort of play on that fact of, I mean, I guess we have obviously already seen it with Nezuko, because obviously she is unlike the other demons, and she is like pretty much from the get-go, like she doesn't eat humans. So like specifically Tanjiro. But I think I did say something along the lines of like maybe like in episode 2 or something. I asked like the question of whether it was a case of, is it just because, like, is it easier for like to break through into a demon's memories and emotions and feelings if they haven't eaten already? I mean, because the idea was, like, in the first episode, Nezuko did actually go and attack Tanjiro, and if that whole sort of like event didn't happen that happened in the first episode, for instance, if Tanjiro didn't have that like sort of axe handle, like, wedged in her gob in her mouth, that she would have eaten him, and then she would have been just another demon like that guy. So I don't know if it's just a case of like, it's his brother didn't have any way to defend himself, or he just wasn't expecting it. It could be a case of like that kind of thing that you see with monster movies, in particular, like zombie films and TV shows and things like that, where once a family member's turned, you'll always have that that family member or friend or lover or anything like that tries to communicate with the dead like zombie relative, because they just can't, like, it just quantify in their brain that they're not like that person anymore. And their love just stretches like that far that you just can't bring yourself to admit that. So you just kind of try and embrace them with that sort of that love, but then the demon or zombie just kills you instead, and that's what happens. So it could have been either way. I mean, back to the point, I don't know if it's just a case of like it's easier to get through to a demon that hasn't eaten, like get in touch with their sort of feelings and stuff. It could just be a case that Nezuko is different because she's the main character's sister, and it could just be that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if it does have anything to do with, I mean, Tanjiro did like ask the question: is there anything to do with blood demon art? Sakonji thinks it isn't anything to do with that. But if there is something sort of similar to the reason why Nezuko is the way she is, I'm sure they'll get into that at some point. But yeah, and also like I wrote down, is it a case of demons that are like that guy, faced with death? Do they inevitably get their memories back from when they were human? As their sort of last thing that they think about? Like, is that like a sort of, it seems weird to call it this, but a scientific fact in that universe? I don't know, because it could just be like similar to, you know, like it. I guess it's just one of those things that character in particular, the demon, that was like all the way back from the Edo period, that he was just a kid that sort of became influenced by the demon as opposed to taking control of it. Because it seems like you have those demons that are like more feral than others, and it sort of, you know, I don't know what to call them because they don't have names, which is annoying because I don't know how to refer to them. The Edo period demon, he seemed to be like sort of engrossed with power in a way, you know, and I guess for like a sort of like a, you know, it became influenced, obviously. I don't know if it's a different kind of thing if a kid turns into a demon. Like, children are more influenced, you know, by other things than, not influenced, that's not the word I'm looking for. What's the word? Shit. This is gonna be the worst, especially when I'm coming off the back of an illness. Shit. It's like influence, isn't it? What? I don't know. I guess the mountain is considered like sort of because Japan has like a lot of those sort of sites that they consider sort of like sort of like religious sort of like places, or like places of, you know, like that sort of like sanctuary. It's like where they have a lot of their temples seem to be like at, like, you know, at water, you know, like some form of water, whether it be the ocean or a lake, or they tend to be like sort of high up in mountains or things like that. Like a lot of those shrines tend to be either like, you know, like in those kind of places. So I assume that Mount Sajiri is the same, and that's kind of what he was talking about there. And then it seemed like 4 people made it, and that's the people that we saw. So we obviously have Tanjiro, we have the guy who's Bakugo's voice actor, that dude who's a bit dickish for the sake of being dickish. I mean, I don't get what he was I mean, they told him exactly what was happening. Like, you're gonna have to wait for your sword, mate. It can't just appear out of thin air. You know what I mean? Fuck knows who his master is, but I can't see him being like very put together, like well put together, like Sakonji is. But I don't know if we'll ever even get to see these. I mean, I suppose there's got to be a reason why I mean, I guess I'll call him his classmates, even though it seems a bit odd. Like, you know, that specific. You know, we had 4 from that. I'm gonna sneeze. I think it's gone. Right. Anyway, yeah, we had 4 specific from that group. I suppose there's a reason for that. I mean, obviously, I've seen the guy in the sort of like yellowy orange kimono before. I've seen him like in the opening. And sometimes, like, when scrolling through, when Demon Slayer was actually airing, like, Crunchyroll or something on, like, Twitter, like, co-op, I'd see, like, pictures of him. So, there's that dude. There's the girl as well, who never even spoke a word. You know, but I assume there's a reason why those 4 were, like, in a group, like, they've got to come back. like I said, the yellow orange kimono dude. Like I assume he's going to be like, you know, a recurring character because he seemed to be fairly prominent. And for some reason they got a sparrow while the rest of them got crows. I wonder what the significance of that is, and also if it's a case of like the bird chooses the demon slayer or not. Like like Harry Potter, like the one chooses the wizard. I don't know if that's the case, but I find it interesting that he's got a sparrow. It may have some, I don't know, maybe the master chooses what they have. But I don't know if it's a case of like the bird itself chooses. Or the head guy could choose it. I don't know, but there's got to be some relevance to that, right? Like, is he some sort of like, does he have some sort of specialty that the other people don't have? And that's the reason why. I don't know. Might be something stupid, like they just don't have enough Kasagai crows to go around, so he gets a sparrow. But if they talk, it would be funny if that sparrow has like this sort of like such like quirky personality about it. Like if it's just like a proper, like a really dickish bird. Who knows? I mean, that guy, he seems a bit sort of down in the dumps right now. He seems to think that they're all doomed, even though he made it through. So he must have seen some shit as well, I'd imagine. But yeah, so it's, I mean, it was quite clear that what we saw, 4 made it out. And also the little girl said that as well, right? But we got sort of a look like behind one guy who I guess I'm assuming that he's the head of the association because he purposefully said like I wonder what my little children will do or something like that, or there was something that he said that you could easily correlate as like he's high up in this association. And they did say, I think back in episode 2 or episode 3 or something like that like they don't know who leads the association, right? They just don't know. But he said there was 5. Now I'll be very surprised if that is just a subtitle error, because it's one thing if the number in the subtitle was the actual number and not a word, like written down as a word. Like you can't get 4 and 5 mixed up. So I assume if that is correct, and there was actually 5 that got through, that the 5th one survived and just didn't turn up for whatever reason. It makes me want to go back to when Tanjiro showed up in episode 4 and just have a look around. I think I'm going to do that now, actually. Just to say fuck it and do it, because why not? Alright, let's see. It was around just before midway, wasn't it? Alright. Here he goes, he turns up. There's a few guys, and I mean, the ones that it's obvious to kind of look out for, because obviously I said it during the reaction, but of course the guys that made it through were the characters that actually had unique designs and weren't like, you know, red shirts. Yeah, so that's them 3. That was an interesting one. No, I want to stop it. There. That guy there. You know, it's like cutting off his eyes. You see, I noticed that fucking anime likes to do that. I suppose like they're not all red shirts. I mean, that guy there in the back left, with like obviously the green and then the like that's an interesting sort of pattern thing he's got there. There's also the guy that's like next to him that like has an eye patch. So I suppose they're not all, it's not all that bad, is it? But I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. I just like I like trying to get there before the before it actually turns up. You can't. Can you say? Oh, you can. Okay, cool. There's also this. No, that's not. That's the girl, man, isn't it? What about this one here? So I think it's quite cool because like even in this shot here, where you can see all of them, when Tanjiro's walking through, you can actually notice the same ones. So I think this guy here, like in the middle, is the one that I was just talking about, who has the sort of like the green and then the patterned sort of arms kimono. This guy that is just left of the girl, left and up, I think that's the guy who has his eyes cut off, who intrigues me most. But this guy though, he stands out. He stands out to me. But I don't know. But I guess his I don't know. His kimono's not different from this guy down here. I don't know. Who's that up there? Who's that little fucker hiding in the shadows? I don't know. Bastard. This guy's like... This guy's like... close to these. And it's interesting that because them two little girls did not point out that 5 made it. They specifically said 4. So I wonder if there's a reason why they didn't specifically say 5. Because it's almost like the way that they go on, like the way that they talk, is almost like they're programmed. I mean, even when the Bakugo guy grabbed that little girl, like that little white-haired girl's hair, like she never even complained or whined once. You know what I mean? It's like it's almost like they're not real, or they just don't feel anything. Like, so the fact that they're like they've got this personality of almost like they're like programmed to do this makes me like wonder that if there truly was 5 that got through, they would mention that, unless they hold some sort of allegiance. And if I'm right in saying that guy that we did see was the head guy, then I wonder if specifically one of the people that is here that got through, that was the 5th person, was actually a student of him, and he didn't want them to be seen or acknowledged publicly. Because if that guy's the head guy, like it seems like the head guy doesn't want to know, like doesn't want people to know that he's the head guy. And that's obviously the reason why people, the association don't know. But yeah, I mean, for me, throwing it out, watch this will be like all for nothing. It'll be like, you know what I mean? It'll be a wrong subtitle. But all right, what I'm saying is, I'm thinking, right, this guy here in the middle. I'm thinking this guy here. And I'm going to say this guy here, who's sitting down next to the pillar. Because he's very close to them. And he's in that sort of like... Because if I'm going with the theory that he's the student under the head guy, then I figure he would be very, very, very good. And therefore, I picture what his student would be, like somebody who is like a prodigy, who's so good, because obviously you would have had, the head guy is like sort of like his master, like somebody who is so good that he's like nonchalant and very sort of comfortable and not sort of on edge and like waiting, like a lot of these people like standing up. And I feel like if he did have anything to do with the reason why specifically the one that Tanjiro picked was the one that absorbs sunlight. Like, I wonder if there's a one that is similar, but is imbued with like some kind of wisteria. So it works similarly, but it's a different, you know. So when Sakonji was obviously saying that it's a special kind of steel, it just means this was one of them. But if there's different ways, obviously, to kill them, then... I mean, like there seems to be. Like, if you have one that's imbued with wisteria, then I suppose that would do the same thing. But those are the only two that we've... Like, the only two... what you would call elements that can kill them, though, right? Is sunlight and wisteria. I mean, I don't even know if it's been confirmed that wisteria can kill them. It's just that they can't pass through it, right? But I imagine if, you know, you chop the head off with it... I think that would be enough, right? Like, that would... Surely having wisteria imbued within the blade would stop them from growing back out from their head like they usually would, right? So I wonder if that is the case. It must be, right? It must be. I'm sure with all those sort of like notable characters that made it through, we'll you know, if we meet back up with them, we'll get some information on which ore they went for. So yeah, but cool. So yeah, they talked about 10 ranks. I think it's like... I didn't actually go check, did I? And now I'm fucking on the last... bollocks, whatever. It's like Mizunoto or something. I guess, obviously, being the sort of first rank of the Demon Slayer Association. Which I'm surprised... or core, I should call it, shouldn't I? Interesting that they went back instead of, like... You know, they went from the highest to the lowest rank. As opposed to the lowest to the highest. I suppose they did that because it's easier to sort of pick up on if the last rank that they spoke about, it's like, oh, that's what you are, as opposed to like starting with the rank that they are, going all the way to the highest, and then saying, no, you're back at the first one. Like, that could just be the reason why. But yeah, so that's what they are. And then Tanjiro ended up going back home. Well, what you would call home anyway. And then Nezuko has woken up, which is cool. Nezuko, I feel like she had literally just woken up, and she didn't know where Tanjiro was, so she got angry and busted down the door. I guess it was either that or she was like, she sensed him coming or something, so you know, she was that excited that's what she just did. I like to think it was the first one though. That would have been funny. You know, but fucking hell, they have to fix that. I think they probably already did though, because it was 15 days later and the door was like, you know, shut, wasn't it? So, but yeah, we had that guy come up with his fucking weird ass mask, which Tanjiro called a clown mask. It's so interesting, like that culture. That I suppose that obviously it has something to do with like sort of back, you know, in the like in that sort of period. It wouldn't surprise me if they still do that now though, because they still have the Oni stuff, don't they? So there's that. But what you'd consider that a clown mask is ridiculous, like that. The fucking mouth, man, so funny. It's interesting as well, like how you get those. It would be interesting to know if that that sort of clown mask would be, if that is like actual, like if that was considered an actual mask like in reality back then. Because what I find interesting is like that sort of expression is used in like anime a lot when you're making something expressive, but I just find it like interesting that would carry over from like one's culture, like in sort of that sort of artistic form of like creating masks and stuff like that. Because I know masks were like a big thing in Japanese culture. So, but it's interesting that sort of artistic sort of like style from masks all the way back then is something that's used now in like animation and stuff like that for you know, to make characters like sort of expressive and have like those same things. But I'm sure I've seen like I've seen characters like with that like exact same face almost, like when they're being smug or something about something. It's really interesting though. So yeah, obviously yeah. So you talked about the Scarlet Crimson and everything, absorbing sunlight, and that he thinks it'll probably turn red, judging by the fact of. I mean, I guess that has something to do with the Scarlet Crimson. ore. I mean, because that is red as well, or at least it's a shade of red. And I guess that would determine. I mean, the way he was talking about was almost like it would determine a percentage of how likely the color would be based on the ore that it was. But I mean, judging by what happened, it turned black. It seems as though when it's wielded by its owner, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't have to be by its owner. I guess whoever wields it, it turns a relative color to whatever the color signifies. Black, I have no idea, but I'm guessing it's cool because they're like it's rare. You know what I mean? But of course it would be. I mean, he's the main character, he's the protagonist. Of course it's gonna be fucking. Of course it's gonna be cool. It kind of reminds me of Ichigo's sword from Bleach, because that was like a fucker. But that was like solid black, that though, wasn't it? Whereas this is just has like the black, sort of like the sharp end is black, while the rim is like a sort of almost like a blue steel kind of look, which looked really cool. I was wondering like when it was going and they hadn't talked about it yet when it was turning black. I was like, does it? Because the rim was obviously changing color as well. I was like, which one are we looking at here? Are we looking at the black one or the color on top? Turns out it was the black one. But yeah, we haven't been told what the black signifies. I don't know, and I don't know if it really changes anything. Because my understanding was that the likes of like the water technique and attacks and the visuals of last episode, what I've heard is that that's just a visual representation that goes sort of with the water breathing idea that Tanjiro has, and that the sword techniques that he's actually doing are supposed to be taken like it's supposed to be done like from their point of view, they're just swinging a sword. But it sounds really underwhelming when I say it like that. They're just swinging a sword. Well, it's fucking cool as fuck. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get that information when it first comes. And also, I don't know if it's just going to be a thing of like taking it with like a sort of pinch of salt, like the whole warding mask thing having protection. Someone did actually specify. So thank you. You know who you are. I can't remember your name, but yeah, somebody did point out that the warding mask, like or at least he was theorizing like the idea is like it's possible that the warding mask actually did give some protection until it broke and then it didn't. That being said, though, this episode we saw like a massive sort of head wound here on Tanjiro, and I believe he keeps that because I think when I was getting like images and stuff from Google, like I normally do this for every show. I'll like go into Google just before I start like sort of reacting to it and like get sort of a sort of like PNG of the character stuff and the logo and stuff to put in like my thumbnails and everything like that. And I recall like Tanjiro like he has one, right? So I assume this is where he gets it. And I think that injury was done when he was smacked against the tree and the mask came off, right? So I don't know if it depends on what it's meant by protection, I suppose. I mean, it did protect him in the fact that it didn't kill him, even though the impact of what it looked like would kill anybody, but, anime, like, making it more visceral, I suppose. I guess it would protect him from his, like, life. It's like a sort of like a quick revive thing, I suppose, could be the best way to describe it. It's like an attack that would have killed you normally, you can survive that blow, but then once the max cracked, that's it. So I don't know, he needs a new one so that it doesn't happen again. It's like you get one big hit, you're not allowed to take another one. But we'll see if that comes into play. They got uniforms as well, which I didn't almost talk about, which like I said in the reaction, I don't know what that means really. It seems as though like it was tied to the rank, and that gets embedded into the, I guess embroidered, it would be embroidered in. I don't know if like it's their name and then rank. I don't know. Maybe you have to get to a certain rank before you get your own kimono or something. But I'm putting so much importance into these, and I don't know really what signifies their importance. Like if it's more just an aesthetic thing, so that you can, it's like a way to invoke that just like that character design. which I really like, by the way. But or if there is actually significance to your kimono. Like, the only one that I really think has real significance as of this moment is, of course, Gyu's, because it has Sipito's pattern on it. You know, but we'll see. Oh yeah, so with the Scarlet Crimson Ore thing, the guy said Tanjiro was because of his, I guess, his hair. Did he mention his eyes? He may have done, even though like they're just like a same color, but sort of just slightly brighter than obviously his hair. That's like sort of like a scarlet kind of like crimson maroon. I actually really like the colors of his hair, and because it's like that sort of like rhubarb kind of color where it's like it's not quite pink and it's not quite red, but it's like somewhere in the middle and then darkened a bit, which I really love that color. You know, it's like that's like my second favorite color of all time, past like teal and, you know, that kind of color. But like this color here, that one. But yeah, it's interesting that the guy basically talked about fire, and I don't know if that was just specifically just because of his hair or what. It's like, you're kissed by fire, like gingers and stuff. But I don't know if that was something that he was just assuming that would be a thing, that he would have some kind of like that attribute of fire when he has learned water breathing. I guess, you know, the idea again, like the idea of like abilities in the show has seemed to be shot down by some people by saying that it's just a visual thing. You know, but I mean, fire and water are complete opposites. You know, so I'd be surprised if that was the case. You know, but yeah, and then also Tanjiro actually talked about his dad in this episode. Like, well, he mentioned him by name, which is also Tanjiro. So that's interesting. He took his father's name. I can't remember if he'd pay to have a show reacted to as well. So if you want me to react to a show, go over those tales and see what they offer. But that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.